So, number one, excessive hunting or over exploitation. So in this case, it is an animal, which is why it only applies to the first part. Some animals, such as sharks, are being excessively hunted to make medicine or commercial products. For example, dried shark fins. And in this case, it is poaching and illegal trafficking. Illegal trade or trafficking and poaching of rhino horn has increased since 2007. People who poach are usually criminal gangs and have professional equipment. So when there is a political and economic instability, people want money, and since a rhino horn can be worth this much money, they want to get a horn for money. Rhino horn trade has been banned under the CITES, and they have been used in traditional Asian medicine, such as in China. In middle and upper class, in certain countries, if you buy a rhino horn, it means that you have wealth and success, and it is a status symbol. So they were killed for the rhino's horn, or it was like a sport. So here's a graph about poaching and illegal trafficking of the Javan rhinos. During the mid-2000s, the demand for rhino horns was high, which led to a lot of poaching of Javan rhinos. So here are some numbers. 13 rhinos first got poached in 2007. Then it increased to 1,215 rhinos who got poached in 2014. And there was a drop in numbers in 2019, but it was still a large number. So why is this happening? And this is because there is a growing demand for them, and they are also worth lots of money, with even more than gold or cocaine, and buying horn becomes more affordable to a wider potential customer base. People also think that there is medicinal value in using a rhino horn when there is not, and they still take rhino horn remedies. The rhino horns are used in traditional Asian medicine, which is used across a wide spectrum of illness. And there are some myths that they can be cured by a rhino horn. So such as to cure hangovers or, It is also used to honor terminally ill relatives, and is used as a status symbol to show off their wealth and that they're in the middle class. People will buy it no matter how expensive it is, as the people's beliefs are entrenched, and they are also used to make ornaments and jewelry. Second, destruction of natural habitats. Humans have destroyed the natural habitats of many living things due to obtain raw material and new land. For example, giant pandas, which in this case, Javan rhinos, lose their home and may die. So, more and more land is being cleared for agriculture, human settlements, and farmland. There is less available space for the rhinos to live in. However, the rhinos need a large area in which to feed and roam. So if the rhinos' populations end up getting fragmented with no safe corridors to travel through, chances of successful breeding and recovery will drop down. And to add on, rhinos are often being pushed out of their current habitats, and there would be a lack of food or water due to the human interaction. So because they built more farmlands and buildings, which is why they have to fight over it. They live and graze alone in a large area, but where there is human settlement, there is depletion in the natural resources, and the rhinos are forced to search somewhere else for a suitable to live, breed, and raise their rhino babies. There is also a ripple effect on the other plants and animals which live within the ecosystem. For example, a rhino is a browser, and they eat leaves from shrubs and plants to prevent the plants from growing too much. And that is an example of how valuable the rhino is within its ecosystem. So if they move, they also have a greater risk of being poached. Third, natural disaster. Here are some examples. The coastal national park is highly vulnerable to tsunamis, and a major explosion of the nearby Ankakaratu volcano could easily wipe out most life in the protected area. Rising sea levels because of climate change may also threaten the park. People living near the park are encroaching on and degrading crucial rhino habitat. The important economic development in the park, including from ecotourism, risk further encroachment into the park. In recent years, four rhinos, including one young adult female, are thought to be died from the disease, which is probably transmitted to the wild cattle in the park and then to the rhinos. So how does their extinction affect us? Rhinos obviously impact the ecosystem greatly, as they have been around for lots of years and play a crucial role in their ecosystem. So they are important grazers and consume large amounts of vegetation, which helps shape the African landscape. They also help keep a healthy balance in the ecosystem, and since it is a keystone species, if this species is gone, it would affect lots of the other species, and I will mention it after. The extinction of rhinos affect the structure and composition of grasslands. Grazers, such as rhinos, increase the biodiversity by selecting certain plants over others, giving other species more ability to grow and provide food for different species. They also act as storage stores for carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is global warming. And the rhinos also help protect the savanna and the species living there. So there will be fewer grazing lawns, because the rhino is a ketone species, like I've mentioned before, which means that they have a large impact on the ecosystem. Without them, the environment can change a lot. And some researchers have found out that without rhinos, there are fewer grazing lands. Less plant biodiversity. Another way rhinos, just by eating, is they allow another species of grass to take root by clearing the area of a more dominant edible greenery. This increases plant diversity and keeps the ecosystem healthy and balanced. Without the rhinos, different plant species can take over and they might kill the other important plants. There would be also less food for gazelles, antelopes, or zebras if the rhinos die, and if there are no rhinos helping sustain the plant diversity and grazing lawns, the savanna will become not livable for the herbivore species, which is the species that only eat grass, and affect different species such as the gazelle, antelope, and zebra. They are all herbivores species, and since they only eat plants, they depend on the grassland for grazing. So without rhinos, they would decline. Rhinos can eat between 150 to 200 lbs of food a day, so that means that they can help clear areas and encourage in growth. There would also be less wildlife biodiversity, as fewer grazing lawns means that fewer herbivores can survive in the wild, and it would also decrease the ecological biodiversity of an area. The imbalance in the food chain would create an effect along all the species living in the ecosystem. There would also be more CO2, because the effect of diminished grasslands and grazing areas would be like an increase of CO2 in the atmosphere. This is because grasslands help absorb more CO2 than they release. So that is why rhinos are very important to the air quality, as they are the Earth's ecology. Seventh, global warming. So with more CO2, there would be more global warming, which means that the temperatures will rise. And for example, for the polar bears, the polar ice caps will melt more faster, which means that it would even create extinction for the other species. Less chores. Rhinos means more chores, but without rhinos, there would be no wildlife tourism. That means that the visitors would not be able to see the different mammals in the savannah. Ninth, decreased employment. Without tourism, the travel designated will be also affected, and carers such as tour guides and animal caretakers, as well as self-employed business owners who sell their wares, would also become unemployed. In places where eco and wildlife tourism are high, there would be more than 44,000 jobs that are directly related to the industry. That is why there's a direct link between the drive-in rhinos and job security.